Well, a very good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of My Story, where we get to know a little bit better folk from the village of Alderholt and the Church of St. James's Church. So I'm delighted to be welcoming tonight Romey Schofield. Romey, good evening.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you, yes.
And wearing your posh glasses, you told me just before we went on air.
I put these on, but I can't see what's going on. If I change them over and put my computer glasses on, look. Oh, there you are.
There you go. Yeah, you're probably better off with the posh ones.
Oh, I'll go for everybody's sake.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, by all means. So,
I'll have a hairdo at the same time. Right. Okay.
Summing up my story and what it is, it's not a CV. It's not a testimony. It's certainly not an obituary. But there are maybe snippets of each in there, and we've had some great sessions with various members of the congregation, and I'm sure tonight will be no different. If you'd like to get involved, you'd be most welcome. Presumably, if you're watching this live now, and there are a good number of you I can see that are watching, you can post your questions and your comments as we go. Please do to Facebook on the Facebook chat, or if you have access to the chat section on YouTube as well. You can do the same. We're going to kind of ebb and flow. Romey has given me very little in terms of, well, actually, she gave me loads of background, but I've purposely not paid too much attention to that. And so all I've looked at are 2 or 3 highlights and a couple of lowlights that Romey has mentioned. And she's assured me that no questions are off limits. So thank you for that, Romey. Let's get cracking then, shall we? Childhood. You've been one of those people, Romey, who I've always struggled to age. But 1944, I've managed to work out. You were born. Whereabouts were you born, and what were the early years like?
Well, the early years were very good in the arms of my mother. I mean, there we go. I was born in a nursing home in Horsforth, which is an urban area of Leeds. I'm a Leeds girl. I'm Yorkshire pudding, basically.
Okay.
And my early years, well, I was brought down to the south in Petersfield when I was a baby in arms of 18 months.
And what forced the move down here with Mum and Dad?
My father's change of job. He was at that point teaching, or he'd just come out of the RAF. End of the war, he got the job of headmaster at Churches College, Petersfield, and down we all came into the headmaster's house. Okay,
all right. And what was Mum doing? Was Mum a house mum?
Oh, my dear mother, bless her heart. Well, her profession was she was an artist as such, but she didn't have much time to become an artist professionally because of marrying Pop. And my father's called Pop and my mother's called Muzz, by the way.
Okay, we'll try and remember that as we go through.
And she said it's the end of the war, and she was a huge support to my father, because at the first time I said we came to the headmaster's house. We didn't. There was a flat above the headmaster's office in the main building of Churches. And we lived there for a bit before the headmaster's house was made ready. And my mother took on helping with sorting out all the post-war financial problems when we had rationing tickets, and the boys who came in had to pay, all the rationing bits and bobs, which you know nothing about. You've probably heard about it, but and that was jolly hard work. But she helped with the catering, and she helped organise the kitchen staff, and gradually, as the war years disappeared behind us and the school got bigger and the staff therefore got bigger, she could then step back and become a home mother. But I mean, she was always involved in all sorts. The school dates, you name it, she did it.
And so your dad was in the RAF, you say, and yep. was then a headmaster of a school.
After the war was over, he was headmaster of a school. Yeah.
So quite a strong character.
Yes, strong, firm. Sometimes I hated him, sometimes I loved him, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Very, very strong, and exceptionally clever.
Right.
Very clever. He had a BSc. He before the war, when he was a young man, he was a lecturer at St Luke's College, Exeter, when he was 20, in physics. He'd managed to get scholarships to Cambridge, and then he did some mathematics in university in London. And he was an exceptionally bright chap.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he didn't pass it on to me.
I'm not going to go there.
My brother was the most the brightest of the lot, the three of us. But there we go.
Okay, so talk to me about where you sat in terms of siblings and such like.
My brother's 10 years older than I am, Tony. My sister is 6.5 years older than I am, Hillary, and I'm the end of the war baby, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was you said there that there were times that you found your dad hard work, and he was pretty strict from the sounds of it. What about mum? Was she a soft touch or?
She was lovely. She wasn't a soft touch because Dad kept us all in order, but both very dear people, very lovable. But yeah, we had to mind our P's and Q's. He, after all, was a headmaster, and we had to toe the line, and weren't allowed to mention what he did for a living when we were on holiday. The only person to spill the beans, of course, was himself.
Right. Okay.
That frequently happened, but as children, no, you mustn't let know what I am.
Okay, that's interesting.
He wanted a proper holiday always.
And growing up, having a brother that was 10 years older than you, how close were you in those early years? Because that's quite the age gap, I guess.
Yeah, I remember Tony going off he went to Portsmouth Grammar. I remember him going off, and of course, he was into his teens, and I remember him going after. Well, I'm young. Yeah, when you think you're young, you don't think about people going off, and then when it kind of dawns on you, you have got a brother, and he is going to school, and then he went from there to university and did TA and all the rest of it. So we are very close, but there's a good 10 years between us too, and there's stuff that Tony asks me now. I said, what happened? I wasn't there when you were there. I don't know that much about my parents. So we interchanged. We're as three siblings, we are very close together. We share lots together, and we have good laughs. Able
to fill in some gaps for one another as well, from the sounds of it. Yeah. I've got the first of the pictures that you sent me. So look at that gorgeous young thing. So how old would you have been there, Romey?
I think I was about 5 or 6 then, maybe 7. When do your teeth come out, folks? Everybody has to know that. Because that photograph was nicknamed Toothless, because I hadn't got my front teeth; they'd just come out.
Oh, I mean, the more than anything, when I saw that picture, the quality of the photograph, given that it's nearly 70 years old, I mean, it's like a high definition photo you'd get now. So
not bad, is it?
Very impressive. So, what were your interests? We know now, and we'll come to it in a great bit more detail, that your love of sport. But as a young thing, what were you interested in? The same thing that other little girls were interested in?
Well, I mean, in those days, I mean, when I learned to ride a bike, my father managed to get a second-hand bike for me, and I had a friend in the bursars, the school bursars' daughter was called the same, Rosemary. We were so we were both the Rosemarys together, and we went off on our bikes. And in those days, nobody said, "I'm going to be out." We cycled, and she was into riding, and I went down to the stables with her. We built dams in rivers, and I was a complete tomboy.
Right.
Climb trees. What else do you do when you're young? We had a youth. We were allowed to do stuff.
You strike me as tomboy's not the word I would have used, but you strike me as somebody that would muck in. Oh, yeah. You certainly do now, and I'm guessing you did as a kid. Was Hillary the same, your sister?
Yes, she mucked in her way, but she was again 6.5 years older. Hillary and I crossed in schools when I went to the second school, by 1 year, and she was into sport as well, but she also loved catering and cooking, and that was her career eventually.
Mm.
But yes, we were all on the sporty side. We all like doing, again, pin us down and sit us down on a seat for long. Dreadful. Just can't do it. You can see now I'm rollicking around a bit. I mean, can't sit still. Never have been able to. The discipline I really must learn.
Were you an academic child?
No. My brother was the academic amongst us, but we all tried hard. And if you really must know, my father was a mathematician. I couldn't understand a word of it. He tried to teach me, and I never got maths at O level. It was just, I think I got 9% in my mock O level, and I think I got 16% in the actual exam. So that's how good at maths I am, folks. But it hasn't held me back.
No, and as we'll go on to discuss, you went on to do teaching, which, given some of those results, is all the more impressive, perhaps.
Well, yes. I mean, as long as you got 5 O levels, I got more in the end. You could go into teaching. You could, and I was being on the sporting side, so not the academic side, or go in any teaching. You have to do some academic subjects because you've got to study education, you've got to study all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I got there. But
I've got another picture here, and you might have to explain it for me.
I'll try.
What's going on here now? I'm making you the one in from the left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sister's the one on the left, and I'm in the middle there. And then a friend of my sister-in-law the top bridesmaid, and that's at Ripon Cathedral at the wedding of my brother.
Ah, right, okay.
It's a bright orange with a maroon sash.
And it's interesting to me anyway that the picture that you've sent across, and I'm sure there are plenty more, but the picture that you sent across to me has you with, is that the bishop or the priest, or?
Yeah, that's right. The bishop.
Rather than with Tony or with anybody else. Was church a big deal for you back then?
One of them.
Oh, I did want pictures of you, yeah, but I thought there might be pictures of you with Tony maybe at the wedding. But
well, there is, but I didn't send it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just curious.
I found it today rather than when you wanted them.
That's absolutely fine. In terms of church, then we know, and we'll talk about it more a bit later. But we know that you're very much involved with your local church. At what stage did that interest start to grow?
Start to grow. I was brought up with it. Basically, went to church with my parents. Hilary at that point was at St Swithin's in Winchester. My brother was probably at uni or in the TA, and I was still at home. And every Sunday, the boys went to church down at Sheet Village Church, which is on the east side of Petersfield. So the headmaster's family sat at the back on the right-hand side when the boys filled the church, and I was very used to hearing males singing, and they raised the roof because you had to, and that's how church was. You went to church on a Sunday. And,
but you went to church on Sunday because that was the done thing. I'm just curious as to when it became more than that, because obviously at some point free will kicked in and you were able to make that decision for yourself.
Yes, of course. And then from that it developed to when I went to school, and I followed my sister into St Swithin's Winchester, and that was we also had services in the school, as well as every Sunday we went out into Winchester. When you got to Senior House, you went out to Winchester, to the cathedral, or to Hyde Church or St Cross. There are several churches in there, and came back. So church was of a high, and then once a month we had evensong within the school, and we also had daily assembly. And assembly was always a Christian. There was a reading. The choir sang. Yes, you grew up with it, and from that grounding, you became to love the music. I think drew you in. There were times when, okay, you said you were going to a certain church and you bummed off somewhere else. Let's face it, I did that. Or I went to a different church that I said I was going to because I wanted to find out what it was like.
Who were you? Sorry, who were you telling that you were going to certain churches? Your parents?
No, we had to check. Oh, the house mistress. When I'm now at St Swithin's.
Right. So Swithins is that a boarding school or?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Boarding school.
Boarding school.
Okay. Got you.
You had to go to school and then told your house mistress, but you didn't actually. Well, one or two of us were a little bit naughty. We thought it was terribly daring, but actually, fact, stood me in good stead because that way I got to learn about Methodist Church, whether I liked it or not. High Church, that was Hyde Church. St Cross, that was interesting. Cathedral, I loved. We all loved because we sang. I got to the choir and we sang and went to Cathedral lots, and I was confirmed at Winchester Cathedral too.
And how old were you when you were confirmed?
1959, March 15th.
So 15.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And in terms of boarding school, if I could just ask about that, because I don't know that I've ever spoken to anybody that's been to boarding school. So this will be an education to me. Did you resent being sent to boarding school, or was that just kind of what you grown up with and the norm?
I think no, I didn't resent it. I didn't resent it at all. Quite the opposite. By the time I got there, I made friends there. When I came home, I had one or two dear friends. Romey Wilkins was one, and we gradually grew apart because of that. That happens because then you make better friends when you're at school and you all pile in and you have a good old goss and whatever. It was taught me a lot of independence. We were privileged. My father must have made the choice because he didn't, likewise sending Tony to Portsmouth Grammar. He didn't want to educate his own children. He thought it would be very awkward. These days that doesn't matter so much. But he was not. He said no. I have got the opportunity. I mean, Tony would have the opportunity to become a boy at churches, but no, he went down to Portsmouth Grammar because my father said, that means you're going to get an education, a very good education, but nobody here will have to tell you off or find it difficult to tell off the headmaster's son and things like that. So we were sent away to St Swithin's. There's a good reason. It helped him to get on with his leadership as headmaster, and I learned a lot, of course, in what he got up to and so on in the holidays. But my life progressed in the private sector. But I was very naughty, and I loved sport. And I did choir, but I was not at all academic. We had learnt various things at Downleys, which was my little prep school, which were totally unuseful when I got to secondary school. I thought I knew French, and we had to decline verbs and things like that. And I got to St Swith's to find that what I had learnt was of no use at all, and I was in 4th division, where about 6 of us were put up to pasture, really, I think.
Right. Okay.
It taught us lots of independence at public school.
And I guess going back you mentioned there, I think you referenced a friend, Romey Wilkins.
Yes.
You would then go home and you would catch up with them and pick up where you'd left off.
Yep. Eventually that petered out. She went down to Petersfield High School. Yes, that's the same thing. But you lost contact, basically.
Are you back in contact now? It's interesting that you recall her name and
I know where she is. She lives in Liss now, but that's
right.
only through email and through circumstances like her mother passed away and then her father passed away. And her father was my father's, as I said, bursar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on from school then. What were your ambitions when leaving school? Where, and how were you set up in terms of qualifications?
Oh, well, there you go. My ambitions. Well, when I was growing through school, at one point, I rather liked cooking and stuff, but then my sister went and did that, so I wasn't going to do that. And then you have these funny ideas. I thought, oh, I'm going to be the first firewoman. I'm going to the fire, but no, I didn't do that. And I just loved sport. I played sport a lot. I got into first team in practically every sport at school, not tennis, because I followed cricket, swimming, and lacrosse. Those are the main things going at that time.
Can I just pull you back because you said something quite interesting there. You said that you quite like cooking, but you weren't going to do that because of your sister, that she was already doing it, and you mentioned that you were thinking about being the first female firewoman, but that didn't happen. I put it to you, Romey Schofield, that inbred in you somewhere is that you want to be a trailblazer or a little bit different.
Well, I suppose. I don't know. I don't mind. You can say that. I like to. Yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
I like to think that there's something of a challenge.
Yeah.
Is there to take up.
Absolutely. And trailblazer you were. Out of interest, cricket you mentioned there as well. Was that allowed to be played by girls back in those days?
Oh yes, plenty of cricket going on.
Right.
My sister was in. I had to get into these teams because Hillary was there.
Ah.
I had to keep the good Schofield name going, you know.
Right. Okay.
She was a fantastic swimmer and diver. I couldn't dive for the life of me, but I could do some swimming. And she got into the cricket team, so I had to do that. And she played lacrosse. Yeah. Keep up the family name.
So sorry, I interrupted you there. So the ambition. So we've established you were pretty decent at sport.
Yeah.
And your ambition was what? Sorry.
Oh well, then I went to decided. I loved sport, and why not go and teach sport? I know that was perhaps it was also the inspiration from the PED staff that we had then too. I mean, I loved gymnastics and all of it. We did demonstrations in front of the Duchess of Gloucester when we had I think it was a 50th anniversary or something. All sorts of stuff that puts you into thinking, hey, I quite like doing this. So I quite like doing that. I wanted to quite like do it a bit more and get other people to quite like doing it too.
Yeah, because you mentioned there, positive influences that you had, and you quite fancied that from the sounds of it, of passing that on and being that positive influence for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got a couple of pictures, and I feel like we might have to go slightly backward to move forward, but I don't want to miss them out. Who's this young man, and what's he proposing?
I can't remember his name. He was a waiter at a hotel that we stayed in. I think that was Cortina. I think it was. My father's life insurance came up one year. Tony was well away by then. I think he was married by then. I'm pretty certain. We're about to be at uni. And Hillary and I and my father, my mother, were taken on a wonderful coach trip, as you did in those days, because there was no other. We didn't go by plane or anything. And this is one evening that we went out. We were allowed permission. The boys, the two young waiters, asked my father if he could take the two of us, Hillary and myself, out for an evening for a drink. And that's me. That's an evening out.
There you are.
He's Italian and I'm English. That's you are. And as you do, you use your hands.
And then I've got another one here, and I don't know quite where this ages you. So now are we kind of caught up? Is this you training to be a teacher?
No.
That's
the story behind it as well.
Okay.
Where my dear sister, she's lovely. She helped me get some holiday jobs when I was 17, 18 and going into becoming a student at uni, at college. And she was working at the London Hospital in Whitechapel at that point, in the catering department and looking after all sorts, and got me a job as a skivvy in the nurses' dining room kitchen, and it was great fun. And there was another person there, well, a lot of others, but a friend called Sally Kingsmill, who I got on with quite well, and we had a good old time together. And Sally was to be a bridesmaid for, I think it was a cousin, and Catholic. That didn't matter. We all got on. But Sally, on the very evening of the wedding, and she'd had everything fitted, she was going to be this bridesmaid, went sick, badly sick. And I've got to know the family by then. They said, Romey, come on, you'll fit in the dress. Can you be the bridesmaid? So I was the bridesmaid.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing who I was being a bridesmaid for. And that was the hairdo. And the photographer who took the thingamajogs said he wanted to give me a studio go through. So I got some studio photo session, him taking photographs, and that was one of them.
Very glam too. Very glam too.
Never to be repeated.
Oh, so okay. So you went and you trained to be a teacher.
Yeah.
PE teacher, presumably.
That's right. Yes, you got it.
And how long were you doing that for?
That was 3 years at Bedford PE College. It was a PE college then. It's now part of the University of Cambridge, of course. But yes, it was a three-year worth of hard grind, with teaching as you went along, because that's how you did it those days. It was a proper, within a fortnight of getting to college as a fresher, you were out teaching.
Right.
And learning a trade with junior schools, and then whatever. Yes, it was good time, very good time.
And all the while, you're continuing to play sport, presumably.
Yes. Yeah.
Until at some stage, and let me know how far off we are, you actually represent your country.
Yeah.
So was it about this time, if we're doing it kind of chronologically? Yeah.
PE college time and beyond.
So talk to me about that. You represented, was it England or the United Kingdom?
England.
And you represented England at lacrosse.
Yep.
Which must have been, I mean, that's quite a feather in the cap, isn't it, to represent your country at something? And
it's my biggest feather, yes.
Yeah. And I know nothing about lacrosse, so but what position did you play?
Okay, I played it's not recognizable now because the games change, that they progress or whatever. But I played initially, when it all started at school, of course, I played it there, and then we had from school we had county teams, and from county teams you went on to territorial teams, and that's how it built up. And from territory you got up to being selected to go forward to further trials for England or England reserves or whatever. So that's the build up of that. That creams that off. My positions were I was a goal scorer at first initially. I played what's called second home, and then I played a wing attack. Didn't like that much. And then I played third man, which is on the circle. It was a centre defence or centre attack. Central is what I ended up doing.
Wow. And did that mean that you had to travel much internationally to play any of those games?
All over the place then.
Yeah.
But yes, we did.
I've got I know this is not as tech savvy as some of the stuff we're doing tonight, but I've got a picture of you there, and I reckon you're one in from the right.
That one on the right, yes.
On the top?
On the top, on the right hand side, yes.
Yeah.
You're actually not focusing. You've gone to the left. Take the way.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. There we are. That's me. That's the West team. We won. We won time and time again. We were a team to defeat. We were such it took us down to a lot of the public schools had played lacrosse, and we went to various places, as well as going to colleges. So we went to Benenden, we went to Rhodey, we went to Ironmarsh College in Liverpool, went over to Wales, went over to Ireland, all sorts of places. Yeah. Incredible.
Have you still got the kit?
Yes.
Have you? You still got the England kit?
Yeah, I've got some of the kit. I've got various things that say England on, because what I haven't said is I did become gradually the president of the England Lacrosse Association.
Oh, I do apologise, Miss President. Sorry. Wow.
And I
Wow.
went over to Maryland. We went to not Atlanta, but yeah, Atlanta, where they had the World Cup in 2004.
Right. Amazing. Okay. It's not. It's not very often I get to speak to an international sporting.
The captain of the team at that point was somebody I taught at Southwarks Grammar. Southwarks Grammar. So, yeah.
Amazing.
I'm more proud to say that some of the people I have taught got to the national teams or became captain of the team than I am with where I got to, because I was happy about that. That
you've carried an influence there as well. Yeah. Now it was lacrosse, was it not, that did for one of your eyes? Am I right in saying that?
Roundabout way, you're correct.
Right.
It was at South Wilts in 1971, and lacrosse sticks are very funny things to mend. I always love mending people's lacrosse sticks because they have strings in them. They did then. And I was mending somebody's stick, and it was a bit of nylon stuff. And I was trying to pull this through, and I couldn't. I was sitting in the staff room mending this stick, and I needed to have something to help me pull. So say this is a pair of scissors, but it's not at all. I've got a pair of scissors to pull it through, and it pulled it through, and it slipped, and I just poked my eye out with the scissors.
Ouch!
That's what happened. It didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt.
I was exceptionally lucky. I had to nudge my next door neighbour and say, "Do you think you'd take me to the hospital, please? I think I've done something bad to my arm."
Well, that's very calm and collected, given the circumstances.
Well, there was no point jumping up and down and saying, I just had, that's what happened.
So did you lose sight in one eye? Yeah. And
it's amazing what you can do with one thing.
I was going to say, and yet you can still drive and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I could still play lacrosse by the end of the following season. I was back playing lacrosse again.
Right.
But you do have to have a laugh sometimes. You have to be able to laugh at yourself, because if you kind of like pegging things out on a line, sometimes I miss the peg and then I just tell myself off, and I roll with laughter. And the days that the tennis balls became yellow or yellow-green colour was a godsend to me, because hitting a white tennis ball, I couldn't judge that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one or two fun things like that.
Right. Okay. Now, at what point do you hit Alderholt? What year did you move here?
Alderholt in 1978.
And what brought you to this neck of the woods?
Good one. I had been sharing a house in Harnham. I was still at Southwarks Grammar teaching at that point, and things were moving down the line. And I'd been head of department, or was head of department then, and realised, you know how the coin drops occasionally, the doing. I'm paying somebody to live in their flat, and I think I want to now support myself in my own abode. So talking to various financial people, and with the loving support of my father, managed to find this house that I'm sitting in now. Here I am. I mean, my father supported all three of us, and we paid back gradually. Unfortunately, my father died before I could pay back fully, but that was solved within the estate, because the way it was dealt with, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. And we'll come to your father's death in just a moment. What was it why was Alderholt the pull? Because presumably there would have been property around at that price in plenty of other places locally.
Oh, well, here's the pull. I looked around in Salisbury, that's where I was. And you could get a shabby upstairs and downstairs with broken floorboards and goodness knows what for the amount that I could afford. So I wasn't going to do that. So I had to look further afield. And somehow or other, I hit on Alderholt. And I came and I looked at some of the first house that came on the market. It was somewhere down Earlswood Drive. And I went into there, and it was night storage heaters in those days. They were all the big thing. And there was this great big night storage heater and a great yellow and orange and red wall in this house. And I thought to myself, ugh. I went back home.
Right.
And this house came on the market, and yeah, okay, I conquered.
Excellent. Excellent. And you've long been associated with St. James's Church. Were you straight into the church when you moved here?
No.
Ah, okay.
I wasn't as such. As because I was new and I didn't know anybody here. And it took me a little time to get to know people, because if you're into sport, as you well know, because you do things at weekends or whatever, it takes you away.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, when I taught further down in Dorset, sport is basically 24/7. By the time we taught all weekend or all week, then you have Saturday matches, and frequently we had things on a Sunday as well. It took me a time to get to know the village and to be regular at St. James. I was always a parish church person, so I looked for the parish church. I felt comfortable there, and I gradually got to be there, but I must have been very kind of, people must have said, who is that? She's not here always. But gradually I became very regular.
Okay. And you weren't invited along by anybody. You just went because it was the parish church, and that was where you were at, and that's
where I was at. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's fast forward then. So you'd been in the village 3 years, and then follows a period of 15 months, which you described to me briefly as being a real low light. Yeah. So you lost your father, your mother, and your aunt within 15 months of one another.
Yeah, my aunt was my father's cousin, so she's my cousin first removed.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And what was it? Yeah. How did you lose your dad? What was he especially poorly?
My
or
dad became ill the previous year. He had cancer. He had cancer of the throat.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, and it got worse. And yeah, he passed away in July 80. And we, as a family, all said to Mum, you're very welcome coming and to live with us. And said, no, all my friends are here. I'd be much happier to stay here. And she was a brave lady and had such loving friends there. She belonged to the art class and this and that and the other. So she went on holidays with all of us. And eventually, on the Saturday, 20th of June, it was 81. There was that weekend. I was going to go down to see my mother on it was the 21st, sorry, on the Sunday, which is because I had a free weekend. No, I didn't have. I was going, and well, anyway, short story. I decided I wasn't going on the Sunday. I'd go down on the Saturday, and I went to see my mum, and my mum wasn't well in bed. And I realised she really, really wasn't well, and I had to go to the doctor. I said, I think it's not just the doctor. I think it's going to be an ambulance case. And we just, between you and me, he said, yes, you're quite right. He came over, and we got the ambulance. My mother was taken to Crewe Hospital, and she died that night. And if I hadn't been there, she'd have died at home alone. And it's just one of those instances when I feel I still strongly feel that I was told to go home on that complete day rather
Yeah.
than go on the Sunday, which I was planning to do.
Mm. Yeah.
And that was the first. So that was that. And then my aunt died on the 25th of November, later on that same year. And she did die at home.
You often hear of couples that have been together for many years. When one passes away, the other almost dies of a broken heart. Do you think that may have played a part in what was happening? You talk about her being very happy with her friends there and where she was.
She was very happy with what was happening, but yes, she had a broken heart. I know that, and I'm sure my brother and sister would say the same. But she had a lovely last year, and she went out. She'd always said, if I have to go, I hope I go with a heart attack, and that was basically.
Is that right? Right.
Didn't have to stay around as such, but she was never gloomy. Never. She got on with life. As far as we know, who knows what goes on inside somebody who's lost their better half or other half.
Sure. Let's fast forward a bit then, Romey. You start to get more involved with the church here and your work with the young people. Your experience as a teacher, I guess, and those positive influences that you had start to bear out in terms of the life of St. James Church. I've got a few pictures that I think kind of typify you, but before I get to those, I'd love to know what's going on here. Sorry to kind of.
Oh my goodness!
What's happening? What's happening here?
I haven't a clue. Oh no, I really haven't. I'm looking at the background. Is that my house? Is that somebody else's? No, it's not my car.
Well, we might not know what's going on, but it's a fun picture.
It's just one of those things that happen.
Yeah. Here's the Romey I know and love. This is because, of course, I can happily say that I had you as a youth leader when I was a kid. So that's not me, to be clear. That's Peter.
Peter van der Horst.
Oh, where's this?
That's in Holland in a camping site.
Okay.
And he's putting gel on my hair, which is a great friend of mine, Yoka, who is still. Oh, both Peter's got his children now. Yeah, but that was just one. As you do, you do silly.
Of course. Well, you certainly do, Romey, like this.
Well, that's
now.
You were there, then, weren't you? Were you on that? No, you weren't.
Do you know what? I don't know that I was there, but it feels like the sort of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you did it or something similar when I was a youngster. What's happening here? You're sleeping in the churchyard.
Yeah, vestry group had a sleeping out night in cardboard boxes to raise money with cake. And Mary was there, and Tom Lang was there, and Frankie was there, all as younger people, much younger people, and we all slept outside by the porch. As you see the gravestones behind you. Yeah. On the porch, on the grass by the porch, we stepped out and we raised, I've forgotten how much money, but we had fun doing it. We ate. Obviously, we used the hall for food and stuff. But one of the things the vestry groupers did, we did some wacky stuff, and you did wacky stuff as well.
At my moments. So, yeah. You obviously were very passionate about that, and you did that for a long time. I mean, vestry group, which is the young people's group in the church here, you must have done that for what, 20 years?
25, I think it was.
25.
Something like that, yeah. With Catherine Puttock and I started doing that. Steve Abram, when he was the Reverend Steve Abram then, he'd asked us to take that on, and that's where we started. We did that together, and then Pip and Pippa arrived, and it just took off. We just had fun. We had lots of fun.
And many trips away with the young people.
Oh yeah.
Any abiding memories of trips away, or anything in particular stand out that you remember fondly?
Well, I mean, going to Cheltenham Racecourse for Greenbelt
Mm.
and eating lots of pasta. There was a pasta caravan people there, and on the last night we always had a pasta meal, and they treated us really well because they wanted to get rid of the pasta, and I did them a deal. We could eat out for practically nothing. That was great. I was in charge of all that type of stuff, organising that bit. And then there's going over to the Isle of Wight, and you know about that, lending you whistles and so on. We had night games and great fun doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that that kept you young, has kept you young, that working with young people, being around young people keeps you young?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you strike me as quite effervescent for somebody who was born in 1944. I was about to do the maths, but you don't say a lady's age, but you can say it. You can say when she was born.
I don't mind.
But yeah, you strike me as quite effervescent for, well, more than a bit effervescent for somebody of perhaps your years. Yeah.
Young people are important because they are the rulers of the world, so to speak. If they're not now, they need to know how to do it, and they need to have fun doing it, and yet be able to get on with people doing it. And I didn't want, and I don't want to grow up to be an older person who is frightened of the young.
Mm.
I don't think that's necessary. I think if you know, it's a matter of I respect the young as much as they should respect the old, because they know much more now than I ever will. Because their youth and their abilities and the way the world has progressed and the things we now know about IT over my head.
Mm-hmm.
But fun to know that they can teach me now. You know, let's reverse roles. Hey ho, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, up until very, very recently, you were doing the coaching the community as well in the village, mobile youth centre, and I'm guessing, don't want to speak for you, but I'm guessing had that not been pulled due to circumstances, you'd still be doing that now.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
If they wanted me, yes, of course I would.
And you keep very, very busy. Which, yeah, and the service you've given, I mean, it's not my job to thank you on behalf of the church, but I will anyway. The service you have given and continue to give the church over the years is extraordinary. Forgive me for asking, but you live alone, and I wonder, have you ever yearned for a companion? Has that ever been a thing? Because you talked about your mum being on her own and how you wouldn't have wanted her to be on her own.
That's right.
Is part of that maybe wanting to keep busy because you're on your own, or does the fact that you're on your own allow you to do those things?
You've got it there. Remember, I had a very good friend in Holland, and we went to do lots of holidays and stuff together, and I can now speak her language. She died July 9, 2019. So I spent a lot of time in Holland, and I've therefore got a lot of good friends over there. So they're my friends as well. I therefore didn't need a companion or whatever. That never approached. Being solo as I am now, it does give me much more opportunity. I can do that. I can offer myself to do that. Sometimes I know I've been said, step back, give somebody else a chance. And that's fair enough. Because I don't mean to be like that, but if I get infused, I get infused.
Well, and I think, again, without speaking on behalf of anybody, a lot of the jobs you're doing are jobs that other people would probably not really be jumping to take on from you anyway. So, but there we go. Yeah, I was just curious. Obviously, like I say, but you've got your cats.
Oh, I have only one now.
Right.
Chalky, he's somewhere around.
Right.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be without him. They're my companions. Or have been my companions. He's my companion.
And close friends, like you say, both abroad and here.
Lots of. I could never move out of Alderholt. There's so many people in this village who are fabulous, just fabulous, fabulous friends. And there's a lot more people who I know are friends well, I can't know their names, but I wave to them every day, and we stop. And, the dog walkers, the people. It is a lovely, lovely village to live in, and to share experiences with, to slalom around the place now because if you want to keep you 2 meters distance with, yeah. And not only that, people who've moved away from the village are still in contact. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good, very good. We're going to finish up in a few minutes, but I would love to take any questions or comments from folk watching. And we've got a good number of you watching. Sometimes, Romey, they're a bit shy. So please don't be shy. If you've got any questions or anything you'd like to say to Romey, now is your chance. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, just tap away, press enter, and it will come up here, and I'll put those questions or comments to Romey. Any regrets, Romey, looking back? Any regrets that you have?
Oh, I'd have loved to have had children, and that opportunity never arose. So is that a regret? But why can you regret something when maybe that wasn't your destiny?
Mm-hmm.
And I've learnt to consider that. I've got nieces, nephews, one great niece and 3 great nephews. So within the family, we were a small family, and we've got larger, and I love them all dearly. Don't see them all the time, certainly the greats, but I've got a great nephew who's training to be a doctor now. 2 great nephews who are, one's in agriculture and one's in being an estate agent, and the great niece is working at Aldermaston, and I can ask her no questions what she does because she's not allowed to tell us. That's it, I'm proud of them all. I think they're brilliant. And Gabby, who's great niece, I think has gone down the road of being a very clever scientist and mathematician, like Elliot. Maybe a bit of my father has come out into those 2, who knows. And then my 2 nephews and niece on my brother's side, and a nephew and a niece on my sister's side. Fabulous people, making great use of their lives, and I'm just so lucky to have a fabulous family.
In terms of ambitions or things that you'd like to achieve still, you did a skydive not that long ago, didn't you?
No, that was for my 70th birthday. Yes, I skydived. That was great fun. Anybody want to do it? Do it. It's fun.
I mean, I could say I did one. I thought it was dreadful, but listen to Romey. Yeah, go for it.
Well, if you're doing it, that the person taking you down, because obviously it was tandem.
Yeah.
That person wants to live too. So you don't have to think about being frightened. You just go say this is a wacky thing to do.
Yeah, but anything that you have on a bucket list that you'd like to achieve?
Well, I'm talking to myself whether I'll do a wing walk at some point.
Okay.
I might do that. There's another birthday coming up in the distant future at the moment, but if something, I don't know.
Wing walk. Okay.
Why not?
All right. And what do you think, or would you like your legacy to be? I mean, I'm fast forwarding like 35 years yet, Romey, but what would you like your, or what? Yeah, or do you think your legacy will be?
Oh, live life and love it, and give as much of yourself to others as you possibly can. Because that's a bit, well, this sounds very selfish, but the more you give, the more you get back.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about things and stuff. I'm just talking about in having a life and trusting, in the good Lord, because.
Well, so I hear that, and and I see that borne out in the way that you are. How much of that is prompted by your faith and the following of Jesus and yeah, how much of that is intertwined?
Oh, closely intertwined, very closely intertwined, and certainly as the years have progressed since all sorts. Certainly since the since the 80s, I suddenly realised, since that time, I've realised there was a lot more going on than I thought. The strength, hello, come on.
No, there's Chalky.
There's Chalks. Come on up here. And certainly since retirement has offered me an awful lot. What are you doing? Anyway, that folks is just a cat's tail. Offered me a chance to do all sorts, like there is the cat's tail. That's to prove it, folks. Just say hi. There you are. Hello. Given the opportunity to travel abroad and so on and things.
Yeah.
Meet people.
Yeah. We've had a few comments coming in, Romey. So Phil remembering that cardboard box.
Good,
sleep
yes.
out vividly. Keith Stanlake is sending his love.
Hi, it's Keith. Of course, and Keith.
Say again, sorry.
2 doors down from me, he used to live.
Not anymore. I was going to say you could have just opened the window. Holly says, "Thank you, so interesting." Jackie Dale says she remembers you teaching the children lacrosse at St James.
Yes.
So there we go. And I think Zoe sums it up quite nicely. So maybe we'll finish with what Zoe's saying. I really enjoyed hearing about your early years, Romey. I just want to take the opportunity to say a big thank you for being such a champion of the children and teenagers you have given so much of your time to, which long ago included her. So,
oh my goodness, did it really?
There you go. There you go. Romey, it's been an absolute blast. Thanks so much. And for giving of yourself both tonight and all that you do, and for being so open with us as well. It's appreciated.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. It was great fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, check out. There'll be another episode of My Story before too long, I'm sure. But Romey, night. God bless. Thank you very much.
Everybody, thanks.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
God bless.
Good night.